Joel, what was this week like for you after, everything that happened on Sunday?
Well, losing sucks. I mean, always. But yeah, I'd be lying to you if this, it was. This week particular was hard. It was hard on me, hard on my family. But that's, this is the National Football League. This is what you sign up for. So this is, there's, what's the saying, no crying in spilt milk, or over spilt milk. So, I mean, you deal with it. We had a bad game. I have to be better for our guys completely. And I put that on me all the time. Anytime we don't go play well, it's on me. So, but yeah, this week was in particularly hard, to be honest with you.
What kind of steps have you taken to kind of solve or improve the communication issues?
Yeah, I think there were a couple specific issues, but I mean, there's things in a course of a 60-plus football game. There's insane amounts of things from a communication standpoint that take place on every play. So, I think the biggest thing is that it starts with me just, getting these guys better, and we were able to come in and hopefully correct the things that were correctable on Monday. Bounce back, had a great week of practice the last 2 days. So, but yeah, it always starts with me, number one.
When you say this week was hard, going back to Sunday, after that game, did you question your own job security at that point?
Yeah, I've never, no, because I'm a firm believer in I control the controllables, and I control things that I can handle and I can deal with. I have no control over that. So I know, of course, again, back to this is the National Football League. It's the most popular sport, watched sport, talked about sport in the world. So, of course, those things are always going to be out there. But and I see them and hear them. But no, I mean, I've learned a long time ago, being in this league as long as I have been, control what you can control. Worry about what you can worry about. And it's no business of mine what you or anybody else thinks of me. So I try to control what I control all the time, and when things are going well, obviously, and then also when things are going bad.
You can, in a way, control how your guys play these last 3 games. I understand you're going to say, you coach for your job every week, but do you think these last 3 weeks, your back yourself is pretty much up against the wall in terms of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I read what you guys write, I hear what you guys say. But I think that's the great thing about our league. That's the great thing about the National Football League. It is, the top of the top, the best of the best. And I mean, I think that's not only a every year thing, that's an every week thing. But that's again, when you sign up for this, when we sign up for this, we know that's what we're getting into. And that's the thing I love about this league. That's the thing I love about the sport. And yeah, it's the highest level of competition at every level with every position.
Joe, when you say that you need to be better for your guys, specifically the miscommunication, how much of that falls on your responsibility to teach them how to execute, how to communicate, what to do, and why hasn't that happened to this point?
I wish, to answer the first part, absolutely. That it starts. I'm a firm believer. It's everything is top down, so everything starts with me. So when things aren't proper, it's my job to get it right. Now, it is frustrating, when things, you would think at this point, things would be running smoothly, but there's a lot of things that take place in an NFL football game, as I mentioned earlier. There's so many subtle nuances that have to take place on every single play with all 11 players. So, but that's part of my title as the coordinator, to get it coordinated. And when it doesn't go right, it is on me, and it's my job to get it done.
What happened on the back-to-back, 20-yard gains by Godwin, and then the one to David Moore? Because it looked like there was a lot of missed tackles on one of those plays as well.
Yeah, there was, the one with the long one in particular, which was really, that was brutal. They simply had a change of strength motion, and we didn't rotate properly. Now, we could have saved the day, that was a 51-yard touchdown, I think, it could have been held to, a 4-yard gain or a 10-yard gain or a 12-yard gain. That's where, the importance of tackling all the time is so important. But ultimately what happened, big picture was we didn't get it rotated properly on the motion when Mike Evans motioned.
I'm sure you feel like you've got plenty of talent, and I realize you've got some guys out and all that, but what's gone wrong? I mean, you're 24th in yards per play and 23rd on third down and kind of up and down the line. What hasn't quite added up, do you think?
Yeah, probably the simplest answer with that, Bill, is, just consistently, consistency, I should say. Some weeks it's been there, some weeks it hasn't. Some periods of games it's been there, then a period of the game it doesn't, So that is ultimately, in the chair that I sit in, that's the ultimate frustration, is that it's not, because I think any coach, the thing that he's always striving for, and I talk to you guys about this all the time, is that word, is consistency, to consistently get that play at the level that you want. And, you don't want it to be up and down. And there's obviously been too much of that. But again, getting that consistency, getting that flow, getting that quarter in, quarter out, game out consistency, that starts with me. And, it's the constant search for getting that, and there's been too much up and down, bottom line, and that's what's cost us.
Joe, any thought to moving back down the sideline? Would that help the communication at all, or is that not a factor, do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm not out on the field, so I mean, no, it doesn't matter. I think there's been, I had fun with you guys with that. That I think that thing's been blown out of proportion so much. Even though I do love, and the experience of being up in the box has been great. Whether a coordinator's communicating on the sideline or he's communicating up in the box, it's exactly the same as far as what's being received out on the field. So, Rob, I don't think that to me that'd be an excuse. So I try not to live in that world. So, to answer your question as plain as possible, no, I don't think that would be a factor.
So it's not like you can tomorrow become Wink Martindale's defense or Spagnuolo's or whatever. So what are you doing in the final 3 weeks? You just play the best of what you have, just try to do what you do best and defensively, or are there?
Yeah, I think that falls back on, I think that's where people do make a lot of mistakes a lot of times is, if my opinion, the worst thing to do is, oh my God, we're going to throw everything out and become this, because there's been games, there's been periods where we've played very well with all the stuff that we've been doing. So, last week was a bad day, and hopefully we've learned from it. Hopefully there's some things that I would love to have back. I'm sure some individual players would, say there's some plays they'd like to have back. There's definitely some calls that I would like to have back, some situations that I would, maybe approach differently. But, that's not the way I'm built. That you just, okay, let's throw this playbook out and put a new playbook in. So, that's just not the way I'm wired.
Joe, Devondre expressed online, some frustration about maybe critique he's received. I don't know if he's referring to the fan base or the coaching staff, but has he expressed any, frustration with you about maybe what you guys have given him in terms of feedback while he's been playing through an injury?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say, Dre is a absolute warrior. I mean, he is, and I mean that in every aspect of his game. As a leader, as a guy in our locker room, as a guy, in our defensive meeting room, in the linebacker room. I have the utmost respect for that guy, and he has my 1,000% complete support. This is a violent game. It is a physical, violent game, and what he's been, really the last 2 years, he's been dealing with a lot of things from a physical standpoint, from a medical standpoint. But really, when you look at the last probably 6 or 7 weeks this year, I shared with you the story that, he brought a guy in on Wednesday night when we were in Detroit to try to get his body right. And he's doing everything humanly possible to get back and to get healthy. And from a respect and support level, Devondre Campbell has my utmost, because he is, like I said, he's an absolute warrior.
What was the idea with the concept of how many times he was matched up with Chris Godwin? Was that just to keep the integrity of your scheme together, especially with how many guys you were missing, or what was the thought behind
Well,
that?
I mean, you got to understand. I mean, we weren't playing an inside linebacker man to man on an elite wideout. In zone coverage based on a formation and whether they come out in a 2x2 or a 3x1, or in that case, if they come out empty, and if a receiver is at number 3, he's going to be, your corners are outside in zone coverage, your linebackers or safeties are inside on 2s and 3s, and it just happened that he was in there. So it was just the call, it was the formation they came out in. But I mean, that happens routinely, a lot, where a receiver that's lined up at number 3 in the formation, he's generally always on an inside linebacker.
After the game, Matt said, he would have liked to see the back end guys challenge them a little bit more, and when Baker was doing as well against zone as he was, he would have liked to see something changed up.
Yeah.
From your perspective, I understand it's not just, all right, play man every snap now, but what's the process when you're getting gashed like that, and why did you guys stick with so much zone?
Well, I think I would be totally lying to you if it wasn't, the Mike Evans factor. When you go against a guy like that, there's so much attention that he draws, both with what you have to deploy to him, but then also the coverage principles that you have to play. And I really think, other than the 19-yard touchdown that he had, I think he had 4 catches for whatever he had, 50 yards. So, but that's when you go into a game plan like that, and you have to deploy that type of attention to a elite guy like that. You got to make up for the other things. And to their credit, they did a great job. Baker, did a good job. So, but I thought, those were things. The first 2 things that we talked about going into that game were, we can't let number 13 completely destroy the game, and then within that, we got to play the run. And I thought, until the third to last play of the game, I thought we did those 2 things pretty well. Unfortunately, we did nothing else well.
Do you feel like the guys got your back this week?
Yeah, you know what? I've never felt. I think I understand what you're getting at. I've never felt anything but that group of men that I get to coach every single day, not coming in and giving me every single thing that they have. I've never ever felt that for 1 minute. So I think that's what you're insinuating.
Yeah. Based on practice, is everybody giving it their all at practice and prepping?
And that's the other thing too. I know Obviously, Sunday did not go well, but at no point during the game, or obviously Sunday night watching the game, going back and watching it, have I ever questioned any of our guys' desire or our heart or our the play style that they play with. And that's something that that I demand, that we demand every single day, is the play style that we go out and practice with and play with. And I've never seen anything to question that from our group of guys.
So when you were in Tampa, the Tampa 2 was like the dominant scheme, right? You guys really had that humming.
Yeah.
And other teams copied it, and then, it gave Favre fits while he was here. And then teams started to kind of figure out, we can run against it, we can do this, and then the next thing comes along, right?
Yeah.
What you and
We've
fans.
talked about that before. I mean,
Right.
it goes in, I mean, offenses, defenses, there's the trendy thing,
Right. And you obviously have the things that you believe in, but you also have been malleable enough to say, okay, I used to be a Tampa 2 guy, and now this kind of Vic Fangio style. Is it possible, we're seeing Flores blitzing the heck out of teams, and Wink Martindale and all these other guys. Is it possible that we're kind of on another swing on this system, and it's not just you, because Brandon Staley's defense has had its troubles, Vic Fangio's has.
Yeah.
Is it possible that maybe there needs to be another kind of evolution again? Do you understand what I'm
I
kind of
absolutely
getting
do.
at?
Yeah, I think there's, but that's our game. That's football. 20 years ago, teams would be in 21 personnel 40 times a game and be in I pro or I slot. And I guess the word is, football evolves. Offensive football evolves. Defensive football evolves. I still think that it comes down to playing hard and playing fast and getting off blocks and tackling whatever system you believe in, whatever system you deploy, whatever coverage principles you decide to use.
Can you evolve in this, when people get frustrated with you and you're the one who has to, like you said, your family feels it, et cetera. Just wondering what's realistic to evolve as things are kind of shifting under your feet. Is that something, you can't do it in the middle of the season, you have what you believe in.
Yeah.
But is that something that if you're here next year, you're able to say, okay, we need to do some things differently and change some of our core based tenets that we're following because of the way the league is going?
Absolutely, and I do think that is, again, with that word, evolving. I think because football, our game is offenses are constantly evolving, so you better keep up with that. Now the thing is, I can't remember who asked, but I do think that's the thing that's hard is almost at the end of the season to be able to wholesale change. That's where I think it's difficult. But there's pros and cons to every system. There's pros and cons to every call. But yeah, to go back, and your ultimate question is, I think you better always be evolving and stay a step ahead, because this game is always, especially from an offensive standpoint, it's always changing. So you better keep up with it.